Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuhu. My name is Muhammad Nuruddin Lemu. I'm a director for research and training at the Da'wah Institute of Nigeria. You're welcome to this episode where we will be concluding on the series of purification of the heart and self-improvement. How do we become better Muslims, better human beings, better servants of Allah? Over the last episodes, we've discussed the obstacles to growth and ways of overcoming these obstacles, certain diseases of the heart, certain things that undermine our character, and certain virtues that if we can focus on, we would inshallah be able to overcome a lot of our weaknesses and strive towards excellence in character and in competence. We looked at the problem and the obstacle to growth that comes in the form of self-delusions, of behaving like the cool fool, the mosquito, as we used in the metaphor in an earlier episode, where we don't know and yet we want to act as if we do know, where we are oblivious to even the need to grow. The other problem we looked at, arrogance, especially when it comes in the form of pride and showcasing brilliance, showcasing the gifts that Allah has given us, whether it's beauty, wealth, anything, but especially when we want to start intellectual arrogance, showing we know more than others and putting others down and showing we're brilliant. This quality we associated with the peacock or with the eagle. We discussed the obstacle that comes from being comparative, social comparison in particular, where however good the gift that Allah has given us might be and is, just because we look sideways, we look at what others have that we don't have, and then we start looking down upon our own. And that our happiness, unfortunately, for some people, is always tied to just trying to get 1 point above the other. One-upmanship. Always just trying to be better and not being satisfied with all that Allah has given us. And we use the example of the dog and the bone. If you recall, in one of Aesop's fables, the dog who went with a bone and looked into the stream and saw his reflection, but thought it was another dog with a bone and jumped in and lost his own bone. And how many of us just lose our happiness? Allah gives us something, we are grateful, we are really happy, but the moment we see somebody who has something, the happiness just gets lost. The other thing we discussed was defensiveness, being like the crocodile, never accepting we are wrong, always acting as if we are perfect, getting angry just to repel people away. And, anger just becomes like the police of our ego. But we don't accept mistakes, so we don't get to grow. The other problem we looked at was seeking acceptance of people. Just a follow. Everything is, what do people say? What do people think? About your life, what do people say? What do people think? We're so much about trying to please others, very often at the cost of pleasing Allah and at the cost of our own happiness in this life and in the hereafter. And there we looked at the problem of being like chameleons. We're always trying to fit in, always trying to blend in. As they say, when in Rome, you do as the Romans do. You have no identity of your own, no character, no qibla, no direction. You seem to always be looking for compliance and trying to just follow orders and follow the culture and follow the norms, even if these are wrong. And so, with these obstacles, the need for us to really ask ourselves, in all sincerity, which is my biggest problem? And you ask yourself, what is your biggest challenge? Is it the cool fool that you really have never taken spiritual growth, moral growth, and growth as a human being really seriously? Have you been too lopsided in just work and becoming a better professional, but really you don't even know your neighbors? Or has it been too much in the area of prayers and acts of worship, and you forget about the needs of the poor and the needs of orphans and the need of animals and the needs of all those who need your compassion? So really good to ask ourselves, which is our biggest challenge? Is it being defensive? Is it lack of compassion? Is it lack of direction? Is it seeking acceptance? Is it showcasing brilliance? Let's identify what's our big challenge. But also to take responsibility for how people respond to us. Because very often what we don't like in people is actually what they see in us. When they see defensiveness, they become defensive. When they see arrogance, they try to get arrogant. So it's good to ask yourself, if you have this particular weakness, what does it provoke in others? Timidity? If, for example, yours is showcasing brilliance, or defensiveness. When you have a problem, what does it provoke in others? Because then you may begin to understand the anatomy of the relationship and the chemistry, bad chemistry, that exists between you and others. Who among your friends, your colleagues, family members, who provokes a particular weakness in you? Is your weakness a result of somebody else's weakness? Is your arrogance and defensiveness is your defensiveness as a result of somebody who is trying to prove you are wrong? They're trying to show they are better, and you then become like the crocodile. So look at these weaknesses. Are these really the best way to respond? How could you resist better? How could you prepare better for the next encounter? We mentioned certain virtues that we should try to develop as habits. Virtues such as humility, moral humility, intellectual humility, spiritual humility. Don't think you are better than others. Just thank God for having made you what you are, and you struggle to get better. To be curious, to want to know, to want to learn across the divides, across the gender, across the religious divide, across the age divide, across the ethnic divides, across the various divides, professional divides. Let's be curious. Let's be sincere to ourselves and to our Creator. Let's be committed to truth. Let us also have compassion. Let us show compassion. Now come back to this issue of compassion. So each of these virtues are things we need to cultivate as habits, to be more humble, to be more curious, to be more sincere, to be more committed to what is good and what is true, to show more compassion. These are things we should develop through deliberate repetition. If you have to act that you are humble, act. If you have to act curiosity, act until it becomes a habit. But keep practicing. Keep trying. On the subject of compassion, of all the qualities that we have, probably the most important for a heart of Iman, of faith, is compassion. Compassion is at the heart of what it means to be a true Muslim or a true human being. Rahmah, this virtue of Allah that He keeps repeating again and again and again in the Quran, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. This is something that is very critical for us as human beings. Rahmah and compassion are the litmus test for true religiosity, for true piety. If you have no rahmah, if you have no compassion, you should really ask yourself, what kind of faith do you have? Faith is not just some intellectual commitment to God. It has to show in action. And so we have Iman wa amilan salihan. The action is the proof of the quality of Iman. And so just like riding a bicycle, just like sharpening a saw or a knife, we need to keep improving the quality of our compassion. We need to continue learning how to be more compassionate, how to empathize more, how to increase the number and the quality of the acts of kindness that we show. We need to upgrade ourselves, become a newer version of ourselves, a more compassionate type of human being. We need to work on trying to know more, be more, do more. Know more, be more, do more. As you learn and you act and you become and you continue to grow in a spiral, you never stay the same. It's an exciting life of not just growing, but through compassion, through contribution to society. You become a happier human being. And we keep praying for Allah to forgive us. But as we try to inculcate these habits into our daily life, we remember the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, where he said, the deeds most loved by Allah are those done regularly, even if they are small. The deeds most loved by Allah are those done regularly, even if they are small. And as we've said before, regularity and small. Start small. Don't do some big thing that's not sustainable. Do something small. If it's your diet, cut out something small or reduce it. If it's exercise, do something small. If it's a kind word, if it's anything, if you want something to become a habit, pick something small and do it until it becomes a part of you. When we come back from the break, we will look at the need to focus on building our trustworthiness, because we are the number one people. I am the number one person who has broken so many more promises to myself compared to anybody else. I always say, inshallah, I'm going to do, and I don't. I break so many promises I make to myself, and that's not good. But inshallah, when we come to the break, we'll discuss that. Assalamu alaikum.